Thank you all for coming tonight and attending. Inshallah, we'll begin with the night with a very short recitation of the Quran after a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى. ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. And without further ado, brothers and sisters, please help me welcome Samahat Sayyid Hassan Qazwini, our keynote speaker, to speak on the sacrifice of Prophet Ibrahim. Please help me welcome him to the podium after a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. One of the greatest messengers of Allah is Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim is considered one of the Anbiya ulil azm, the messengers with strong determination, who are, by the way, 5 messengers. The first one is Nuh, the second is Ibrahim, Moses being third, Jesus fourth, and lastly Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the reason are those prophets called Anbiya ulil azm, messengers with strong determination, because indeed they were with strong determination, those 5 prophets and messengers. They were of a great influence. And if you read the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frequently mentions Ibrahim in numerous verses. In fact, there is a surah in the Quran named after him, Surah Ibrahim. But he has been mentioned in numerous chapters. In Surah Al-Baqarah, in Surah Al-An'am, in Surah Al-Qasas. In many chapters, Ibrahim was mentioned. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shed light on different spots of his life. In his early childhood, when he migrated to Egypt, when he became a father of 2 sons, Ismail and Ishaq, when he was thrown into the fire, when he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show him physical evidence of how he resurrects people and bring them back to life. And finally, his story with his son Ismail when he sacrificed him in the sake of Allah. All those stories have been mentioned in the Quran. And when Quran tells us a story, it cannot be disputed. It cannot be doubted, because Allah is telling us the story. Nobody else. Not one particular narrator is telling us the story. It is Allah telling the story in the Quran. From early childhood, Ibrahim alayhi salam led a very unique life. Very unique life. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses him to be an example, a model, role model for many of us, particularly the youth. He was 16, 17-year-old when everybody in his town was worshiping the idols except him. It didn't make sense to him. Makes no sense to me to go and worship piece of idol that doesn't harm nor it helps. It doesn't harm me nor it benefits me. I would worship someone that I can extract good from. Someone who can help me or who can hurt me. Someone with mighty power. Someone omnipotent. But for an idol that cannot even protect itself if it's once attacked, why I would submit to this type of deity? He refused. So when everybody was out of town to celebrate a certain festival, Ibrahim pretended that he is sick and he stayed home. And when everybody left, he took his hammer, he went to the statue's house and he started demolishing them one after another. And he kept just one intact, the last one, the big one. He did not demolish it. And he hung the hammer on the shoulder of the big statue, the big Sanam idol. When people came back and they saw the destruction in the temple, that all those idols were destroyed, the first thing came to their mind that it was Ibrahim, because he was the only one in town when they left. So they went after him. Did you do this? Did you destroy? He didn't say no, he didn't say yes. He says, ask. بَلْ فَعَلَهُ كَبِيرُهُمْ. This was done by the big idol. They said, come on, are you mocking us? You know that he doesn't talk. You know he cannot do that. You know he cannot demolish, he cannot inflict harm to anybody. He says, really, if you know that the big idol you have been worshiping for years cannot inflict no harm to nobody, nor he can bring benefit to nobody, then why do you worship him? He led them to condemn themselves and their mentality, that they've been worshiping an idol that does not harm nor benefit. They decided to throw him in fire, and you know the story. Again, Ibrahim alayhi salam stands out through his powerful personality, through his resolve. He was never shaken. We people tend to solicit help, support from people to make sure that we are on the right path. I try to basically subscribe to everybody's belief, so nobody can condemn me, nobody can single me out. Ibrahim didn't care about that. Ibrahim knew that if everybody in his town would worship the idols, they are still wrong. Having more people worshiping idols doesn't make worshiping idol a valid deity. It still makes no sense to him. Because you do not measure moral issues, intellectual issues by their popularity. the more people we have subscribe to this notion, the stronger it is. Isn't that what we do sometimes? When we see people are all going in one direction, we assume that direction is correct. That's not how we measure intellectual issues. That's not how we measure moral issues. Moral issues are moral issues. Right and wrong are still right and wrong, whether people support or subscribe or they don't. Whether they follow and believe that right is right or they don't. Right is right. And wrong is wrong. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he knew what his people were doing was wrong. And he did not bow to that mentality, to that mindset. And he had to pay a price, and he was willing, he was happy, he didn't complain. They threatened him that they would throw him into fire, and of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to interfere. In this case, when the entire faith is at stake, Allah interferes. Because had they condemned Ibrahim, he would have been the only believer on earth. That means they would have eliminated the last and only believer on earth. And Allah would not allow that. Allah may allow some people to be eliminated for some reasons, to be killed, because that's how life works. Sometimes a bomb comes and kills innocent people. But when it comes to the whole faith being questioned or could risk elimination, Allah interferes. So Allah interfered by saving his life. He saved his life. And he had to leave and go and find another place to live. He went first to Egypt. Then again he had an issue with the king of Egypt, who wanted to seize his own wife, Sarah. She was extremely beautiful. And the king had his guard at the border. Any beautiful woman passes by, the king wants to take her for himself. Sarah was extremely beautiful. She was Ibrahim's wife, and the king wanted to take her. Anyway, it ended up by Ibrahim leaving the land of Egypt, coming to Palestine, Canaan. And then another trial begins. Ibrahim doesn't have a son, and he longs for having a son or daughter. He didn't have children. As a father, as a mother, every mother, every man and woman after getting married, they would long for seeing children. They want to fulfill their motherhood or fatherhood by having children. For a while, Ibrahim didn't have a child. He wouldn't say anything, but his wife, Sarah, would tell that he was anxious to have a child. After seeing her husband longing to having a child, when she was in Egypt, she bought a female slave called Hajar. So she decided to set her free and ask her slave to marry her husband Ibrahim, so he may have a child. So she set her slave free, Hajar became free, and Ibrahim married her as his second wife, so he can have a child. The minute Ibrahim married Hajar, Sarah started feeling jealous. It was her who asked Ibrahim to marry Hajar. But now that he married Hajar, she is so jealous, extremely jealous, to the point that life became so miserable. She made life miserable for Ibrahim because of her jealousy. And Ibrahim will tell her, "It was you who asked me to marry this woman. You suggested, I didn't. And now that I married her, you're jealous of her. What made things worse is that Hajar became pregnant a few months later. Sarah doesn't have a son. She doesn't have a child. And a few months later, she delivered a baby named Ismail. He was the only son for Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just and loving and caring. After seeing Sarah and her suffering, not having a baby, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to interfere again by giving Sarah another baby for Ibrahim. And that was Isaac, Ishaq. She was old enough not to be able to bear a child. And when the angels told her that she will be bearing a child, she started laughing. كيف ألد وأنا عجوز عقيم. How would I bear a child when I am an old woman? I can't. The angels told her, listen, when Allah wants something, it happens. It is a miracle of Allah. Yes, if you measure that with our normal standards, that's not possible for a woman in her 60s to bear a child. But if Allah wills, if Allah wishes that for a woman, she will get pregnant. And she got pregnant. Ishaq. Now, having a child didn't solve the issue. And Allah has a plan. And see how Allah's plan works through a very mysterious way. Allah wants to establish Mecca and Hajj. So when the jealousy intensified between the two mothers, two wives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to Ibrahim, who was at the time residing in Palestine, in Hebron, to take his second wife, Hajar, and her son, Ismail, and resettle them in the land of Faran. Land of Faran is Mecca. Old Mecca, ancient Mecca is called Mount Faran. There was no Mecca at the time. There was no city called Mecca. There was a mountain called Faran. In the heart of the Arabian desert, where there is no planet, no tree, nothing at all. No life. No life. You know, life could be found when there is water. There is no water in that area. And because there is no water, there is no life. Allah asked Ibrahim to bring his son and his wife, his second wife, Hajar, and have them resettle in the land of Faran. And one thing about Ibrahim, he never says no to Allah. He always submits. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls Ibrahim the first Muslim. Why he's called the first Muslim? Because if you just focus on the word Muslim, what does the word Muslim mean? Literally, the word Muslim means someone who submits himself. Muslim. Someone who submits himself. So Ibrahim alayhi salam was the first Muslim according to the Quran. قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. My life, my death, my prayers, my rights, they are all for God. And I'm the first to be Muslim, to submit to His will. So Allah is testing Ibrahim through phases. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. As he is aging, in every step of the way, Allah is testing Ibrahim. Just like He tests us. He tests the humans as well. He tests you, He tests me. And Ibrahim was going through those tests with a very high score. He passed them all. With honor. With honor. He never wavered. He never faltered. Every test Allah set for him, he passes it. So Allah tells him to take your wife and your son to Mount Faran in Mecca. He takes them, and now Allah tells them, now you leave them, you go back to Palestine. But Ibrahim is a devoted husband, a loving father. How would he leave a young woman and a small baby in the heart of the desert where there is no food, no water, no protection, nothing? What if beasts may surround them and attack them? What? There are 1,000 what? How he would do that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Ibrahim, that's not your business. I have created them, I will protect them. You cannot protect your wife and your children more than I can protect them. Isn't that true? Who has more power to protect you, Allah or yourself? Obviously, Allah has more power to protect me than I have power to protect myself. Allah tells Ibrahim that don't worry about your wife and your children, your child. I know you love them and you protect them and you are so protective of them, but I'm more protective of them than you. Where I'm leaving them, in whose hand I'm leaving them? Allah says, in my hand. It's not your business, go back. His wife begs him to stay, and she says, Ibrahim, where are you leaving me in this desert? But again, it's all about submission. Ibrahim submitted himself to God, and he would never question God's wisdom. Why you're asking me to do something? Because he trusts God. He has such unconditional trust in God that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, he would do it. He would never question God's wisdom or God's justice or God's love. He leaves her. When he leaves her, you may know the rest of the story here. The child, the baby started crying and crying and crying, and she's looking in the desert for some water. And coming from Egypt, Egypt at that time was an agricultural area where there was no desert. You're talking 3,000-4,000 years ago. She has never seen mirage in her life, because mirage could be found only in the desert where there is sand. Because what happens, the sunlight reflects on the sand, and if you walk in the desert from far away, you may think it is water, but it is the reflection of the sunlight that looks like water. So you keep walking. I have seen mirage myself in Saudi Arabia. Some 30 years ago, we were going to Umrah from Kuwait, and my father was driving his car, and you can see from far away nothing but water. It's not water. You get to it, it disappears. There is no water. It is the reflection of sunlight on the sand that looks like water, but it's not water. It's mirage. So she sees mirage and she thinks it's water. She chases it, but she cannot find it. She cannot find water. She comes back to her crying baby. Again, the mirage looms. She goes to chase the mirage and she cannot find water. This happened several times. She's getting so frustrated and she is so frightened in the heart of that desert where there is no human being, no animals, no birds. قال رب إني أسكنت من ذريتي بواد غير ذي زرع. My Lord, you have asked me to settle my children in a place that has no plant at all, no tree, no grass, nothing. But after several attempts, she hears the baby stopped crying. She comes back, she sees the sprinkler. the spring, the water spring, is exploding from beneath the baby's feet, and there is water all over. And she started making a circle around the water so as to make a pool so she can drink water from that well. She drank, she gave her baby, and birds started hovering over water, and caravans of travelers crossing the Arabian Peninsula noticed there are birds, and when there is birds in the desert, that means there is what? There is water. They came chasing water and they found the well of Zamzam. She was very smart, though she wasn't a lawyer who graduated from any university. Hajar was very brave to negotiate her right. She told those caravans that you're not allowed to drink unless you offer me protection. A tribe called Jurham, it's a nomad tribe that they roam the desert. They decided to settle next to the well. She says, you're not even allowed to settle here unless you offer me and my son protection. They agreed and they settled, and the first nucleus of Mecca was established then. And then Ibrahim comes after a few years, and his son is now 18-year-old. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to test him the most difficult test in his life. The most ever difficult test. And that is to ask him to sacrifice his own son, Ismail. Now, Jews believe that it was Isaac, meaning they believe that God asked Ibrahim to sacrifice Isaac. We Muslims believe it was Ismail, according to narrations of Ahlul Bayt. The Quran doesn't say which son. All it says, it's a son. But in our traditions, it is Ismail. In the Jews, it is Isaac. Who is right? Who is wrong? Because I'm Muslim, I trust our Imams alayhum salam. I believe it is Ismail. But it doesn't matter whether it was Ismail or Isaac, because we believe that they were both prophets. Ismail is a prophet, Isaac is a prophet. They were both great sons of Ibrahim. It doesn't matter who the sacrifice was, whether it was Ismail or Isaac. They both are great sons of Ibrahim, and they were both chosen as prophets by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the hadith says that Ismail was walking with his father when his father broke the news to him. He says, my son, I saw in my dream that I am slaying you. And one thing about the dreams of our prophet is it is true. It is a revelation from God. God is revealing to the prophet through the dream. Meaning, when the prophet sees himself slaughtering something, that means Allah is ordering him to slaughter that. Allah commands the prophet through the dreams. That's why the dream of the prophet holds value. My dream, your dream doesn't hold any value. Any value. Most our dreams are nonsensical, mean nothing. But when a prophet of God sees a dream, it is an order, it's a commandment by God. Allah is telling him something. So Allah tells him to sacrifice his son. Ismail hears that, he wouldn't say no. He wouldn't say no. He says, yes, I'm willing. Ya Aba tif'al ma tu'mar. Do what Allah is asking you to do. I will be patient. I will accept it. With a heart full of pain and fear and anxiety, he decided to sacrifice his son. When he takes the knife to slay his son, the knife doesn't work. As sharp as it was, it didn't work. He tried once and twice and 3 times, it didn't work. And then he realized there's something wrong. Allah doesn't want him to slaughter his son. Jibreel comes down with the news from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you did fulfill the commandment. Ya Ibrahim, قد صدقت الرؤيا. You did it right. Allah was testing you. Allah didn't really want you. Allah didn't really want you to kill your son. He was testing your submission, your will. Allah gives you something and He takes it back. Will you negotiate? Will you negotiate? When a father lost his son at the time of the Prophet, Abu Talha, and he was grieving a lot and he was going through depression because he lost his only son, his wife approached him one day. She says, Abu Talha, my neighbors gave me her jewelry and she asked me to use it for a while. And I've been using the jewelry. Today she came back and she says, give me back my jewelry. And I want to ask you, should I give her back? He says, of course. Why do you even ask me? This is not yours. She says, but I like the jewelry. I was enjoying it. She says, so what? You were enjoying something that does not belong to you. It belongs to her. She did you a favor. She gave you the jewelry, her jewelry. Now she is asking you to give it her back. Why are you mad at your neighbor? She says, Abu Talha, God gave you a gift. He took it back. Why are you mad at your Lord? Why are you grieving so much over your son? Your son is a gift from God. He gave it to you and He took it back. It's okay to grieve, but it's not okay to collapse. It's not okay to question God's wisdom. He woke up. He realized she was trying to teach him a lesson. Talha, his wife, was trying to teach him a lesson. Ibrahim knows his son is a gift from Allah. He gave him the son. He can take it any minute he wants. That's why he never questioned God. But Allah didn't want to take his son back. Allah was testing his patience, his submission, his will. And he passed. He passed that test. When he passed that test, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to him, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنْ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. When he passed all those tests and he was able to succeed and never fail, Allah made him an imam for all people, leader for all people, a divinely appointed leader. إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. You're the imam of all people. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك قاضي الحاجات إنك على كل شيء قدير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. It is time for Salah. I think we need to rush ourselves to the masjid to perform Salat al-Maghrib wal-Isha.